Somebody said earlier, I don't know what he said, ask him thoughts on why open source software projects work and why can't that model in the data creation / verification work for LLM training, data creation, etc. Is it only profit skewed?
That's a really good question. I haven't thought too much about it, but I think by and large, we see that the decision making of large language model companies and generative AI companies that they care first and foremost about low-hanging fruit. They want something that is already easily accessible to them. They don't want to have to themselves build any sort of architecture for getting crowdsourced information or any sort of information that's not yet available. It's kind of, there would have to be maybe some like independent effort or multiple efforts across different domains, perhaps, in order to create data sets that are supremely useful to these companies, that they don't have to filter as much as they have to filter crawl data that they're already working with. And maybe that would allow these models to be better at each thing that they do, rather than being pretty crappy at their generalized approach to everything. Like they're pretty good at, these models are pretty good at talking sort of like a human, at least when you're chatting in text with. And that is the priority of most of these companies, right? Is making a personable model, one that people want to engage with as their only source of engagement, ideally, right? With information, like their portal to the world. Maybe their second priority is good data, but that is so much lower of a priority percentage-wise in terms of what they focus on, that it really feels like an afterthought. And the fact that these companies, they can't be transparent about where they source their data. Like the last time that any major company told you about where they got their data was like end of 2022. That's GPT-3, and now they're in GPT-5, going on GPT-6, and they're just black boxes. Like we don't know what they're training their models on. We can't independently assess the biases of those models with any sort of rigor, because we don't have knowledge of the training. And therefore we can't even suggest better sources or call out bad sources that are used for training. It's baffling.
Let's see. I'm just looking for questions right now. Yeah, fuck. I don't know. I feel like this is when I think about problems related to LLMs or the AI or the search stuff or the truth stuff. A lot of it feels like, and my audience also gets frustrated on this, is a lot of it feels similar to climate change to me, and that like I recognize it's a massive issue that is already having huge impacts on the world, but I tend not to talk about it much because it feels like a totally fucking hopeless issue to even begin to think of, because there are just so many presuppositions that people have to buy into before they even begin to even agree it's a problem, and then to agree that we should do something about it, and then to agree on the sources. And yeah, it really is fucking annoying. This is kind of random. Have you ever played any of Metal Gear Solid games?
I have not. No.
Fuck you. Okay, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's a huge issue, but I feel like it's a huge issue that at its foundation, I feel like the technological issues are unique, but I feel like the media consumption and the population-wide issues of consuming good information, I feel like it's not unique. It's taken a problem that existed in the past, and it's made it so, it's connected it to so much technology that now it's at like epidemic levels of making problems for society. Whereas before it was like a more self-contained thing that you could kind of deal with. And yeah, I don't know. Are you amenable at all to the idea that, like, these might be huge problems that are introduced due to AI, but we could probably fix all these problems in the future with AI, or that'll be the most likely solution? Or
I think AI is going to be important in every way that we touch information, whether that's making decisions about information to consume or what to use in making these large models, but also there's moves and indications from companies that eventually the training data sets are not going to need to be, certainly not any more massive than they are now. They're going to rely more heavily on the open web and on other approaches. I think AI can be a solution. It just needs to be done smartly. You can build tools to monitor disinformation, right? And as long as there's a mechanism for presenting that information to OpenAI and others, then that's great, right? Then we have we're using AI to tell the AI companies what their AIs are consuming that's not good, and that's a good ecosystem, right? Ultimately you're creating net good, and you're using at least one form of AI for like definitive good. Identifying bad actors, the ways in which they act that might not be obvious and that we don't yet really even know about, like in total. There's a lot of really valuable ways that AI can play a role in solving this problem for sure. Certainly you shouldn't be scared of using AI to solve problems with AI. In fact, you kind of need it.
Yeah. I guess I feel like when it comes to like this information stuff, I feel like the solutions to the problem are, it might be maybe arrogant to say this, but I feel like the solutions would actually probably be quite easy to figure out. Like, how do you solve for misinformation and propaganda? I feel like it'd actually probably be pretty easy. I think the problem is on the demand side, that people just aren't demanding that type of information. Because I feel like if the demand was actually heavier for, like you said earlier, like what people really want are personable AIs or more generalized stuff versus stuff that's more credentialed or more specific in an area, that if there was actually a demand for that, and then like you saw a whole bunch of companies putting resources towards figuring that out, I feel like you could figure out answers to that relatively quickly and easily. But it feels like there's just no demand for that. Like, nobody actually gives a fuck at the end of the day if a given thing is true or false. They just care that it provides some level of comfort to them, and then so that's in turn what companies end up providing for, which is frustrating. But maybe that's just too doomer of a view, I guess, from my perspective.
Well, and kind of in the same way that you mentioned climate change before, right? I think in a lot of the same ways that people won't feel the drive to say that something's a problem, whether if they're just a random person or if they're in the LLM space until they feel like it's
the negative effects of it.
It's actually it's harming them, right? It has to harm you in order for you to care, in the grossest possible terms. And so also showing people how this data manipulation and the vulnerabilities that are kind of built into all these platforms, like showing how it is affecting them, like personally. It's not like just this vague way it's affecting them, like trying to create like creative ways to show, here's what this model is doing, and here, if you had better data, here's the benefit it could give you, right? It's not just like telling them they have to figure out how this is an issue for them, like showing them in some sort of user-friendly way, like if these changes are made and you help push for these changes, here's what the result can be, and how it could help you in X, Y, and Z ways. Like the same thing with companies that are themselves customers for these LLM models. Like, if you could convince them of the same thing, often companies are interested in truths that are relevant to them, right? A finance company wants to know about their fellow market players that they want to have as much insight into their business practices, right? So they can make certain decisions and into the markets that they're, the changes that they've made that have been effective. So if you show that, if we make these changes in order to create these more reliable models that they are already using in an unreliable way, they get these benefits, right? And every element of society gets a benefit from getting context on information, right?
Assuming I think for like business level stuff, I think this is probably true. So like, I imagine there's probably a lot of work that goes into like the Stack Overflow AI or whatever like things that people use for programming, right? I imagine there's a lot of effort that goes into delivering true stuff for that. But I feel like when we talk about like data poisoning, we're not talking about like a bunch of comp sci students who are trying really hard to edit Wikipedia articles so that everybody uses Python in a project, right? It's more having to do with like these really wide, like political or geopolitical issues that are harder at the end of the day. I feel like the issue is it's so hard to see that the information is like bad for you or is doing bad things, because at the end of the day, you don't ever actually suffer a consequence. Like, let's say somebody thinks that that Israel has 500 million, superhuman Jews, or that Palestinians are actually all, mutants. Like, if you could go through your whole life with that belief, and you would never actually be like epistemically punished for it. Just like, oh, they believe this, but like, so I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like that matters, And I feel like that's one of the big frustrating things about getting people to value stuff that's true, because at the end of the day, it doesn't actually really matter that much whether it's true or false. It just because you don't run up against the negative impacts of believing a false thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic that solutions could be put in place, not just for like literally solving this problem, but just bringing awareness to people in the right ways. And so even if it's showing them like a wiki page, like, and showing like the misinformation that's present there, then is nicely camouflaged in right now with all the data. That would be like a really useful tool. Certainly one that at least some people would be interested in using. The same could be true. You could imagine like a browser plugin that people could use and have like an overlay or get some additional info on like something that seems out of place to them on a page, without them having to Google it, go through 10 sources, read through them, and synthesize information. Like, they're not going to do that for
and I think
every
there's
sentence
like
that they read.
You see a lot of like aggregator type people. So have you heard of like Ground News, for instance?
Yes.
Like, yeah, so I think,
and all sides and all that stuff.
Yeah, you see that there are like companies that are popping up that are kind of like trying to solve for this. But I guess the fear is that these are for power users and for hyper niche things. And I think that it's so much more pernicious how this misinformation can creep into society. Like you said, I think people maybe take it for granted that a piece of bad information might show up that somebody who's like very media savvy can detect is, oh, well, I know this isn't true. And that's great. But if you have like very subtle stuff, like somebody saying, the Civil War was fought mainly because of states' rights, and that might seem like a minor, small thing, but like a teacher sees it because they're Googling something and an AI is what gives them the answer here, or students are using AI and the assistants are writing their papers, and then that shows up, or people that are editing history books are using some, LLMs to help them with some editorial decisions to pump out books faster, that these things can creep in such like, in such like small, annoying ways that, it's very frustrating. There has to be a bigger answer, I think, than just relying on kind of like power users that are going through content or hoping that people care as much about it. Like, I wish there was some way to make people care, but you'd have to do it like legislatively, and that's a really difficult thing to do as well, obviously, because you'd still have to make people care enough to pass the laws for it.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right on that. Yeah, I wish I had better answers, or better, I have hope, but not necessarily the means yet, but I think we're going to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else?
If there's no other questions, there's maybe a few things, not things to plug, but just like things I hope that people can take a look at. There was Ashley Rinsberg's article that you spoke about on stream. There's been a whole series of things that have come out since then. There's a big back and forth with Z Scroll on X, and where Z was straight up just lying about involvement in different Discord servers and being a Reddit mod, and but basically every claim that they made was complete BS.
Actually, I'm kind of curious. When you say Z, you're talking about the Z_squirrel. What when you know that there are accounts like that exist? Not you, but like an ordinary person. If a person knows about these accounts, do you know other good ways to fight against these accounts? Like, would you recommend like people fact check them and reply to the tweets and tell them how they're wrong, or is that largely a waste of time? Or
yeah, I mean, I guess the only mechanism that I know that could in theory work would be like go on X. It would be community notes, right? In the case of Z, it seems like the more you interact and push back, you just get 10x back right at you, and with the goal of overwhelming you and just and shutting you up. It tends to just be a bunch of slurs thrown your way just to piss you off, and and then you don't respond. It was good that Ashley Rinsberg like pushed back. They showed receipts. Z still sort of denied things, but kind of went a little quiet about it, which was out of character and kind of nice. And then in the case of Reddit, Reddit investigated the R Palestine Discord server. internal investigation, no oversight, no, doesn't seem like they were willing to talk about who was doing the investigations. Like, were they actually experts on, digital forensics? Did they made it clear in their findings that they didn't even look at offsite collaborations? Like, there's a Discord server, and they didn't even look at the Discord server. They didn't consider any evidence about that. I provided some evidence for that to some folks who were able to engage with Reddit, but it doesn't seem like Reddit even gave a crap about it, or they were just hoping that no one would speak up about it. And then they came out with their findings. 4 pieces of terrorist content, blah blah blah, and Ashley came out with a great rebuttal on his Substack. I'd highly recommend the reading. It's such a just point by point showing how, in the same way that Z is a good BSer, Reddit is the same. Just like any company, I guess.
Yeah.
They essentially did a PR push but lied many times in while doing that, and they need to be held accountable. And hopefully, being held accountable in this case is them making changes and coming to the table with affected moderators, communities that have been harmed by the misinformation. It's interesting that in response to Ashley's rebuttal, Reddit didn't make a public statement. They suspended 7 of the users, 6 or 7 of the users that he mentioned in his rebuttal on Substack, but Reddit did not publicly acknowledge that. They were what look like big actors in the misinformation space. But it's kind of sad that it doesn't get as much visibility as it should, and that Reddit's just continues to be doing the minimum they can in order to avoid more scrutiny.
Yeah.
And one thing I could definitely encourage people watching, and encourage people to do the same. Just go to ChatGPT, go to Gemini, go to any of these large language models. Ask them questions, but with an eye of to scrutinize the responses you're getting. You could fact check them. You can find sources for those things. Ask LLM for sources. See if they're even relevant. Are they just giving you, or are they just giving you sources for the sake of giving you them? Just test these things out. If you find anything interesting, share it on Reddit, share it on any platform, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. Just bring awareness to the problem, and how just random people doing kind of citizen journalism, or just finding problems with the downstream effects of the content manipulation. Show those effects. Show how they can affect you. Ask questions that you would just normally ask an LLM, or that you would normally Google. And also point out strange Google results that you get that are clearly signs of content manipulation, or people pushing political or personal biases into affecting the information we consume. I think that would be a really powerful thing for people to keep on doing.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, thanks for the information. If there's ever stuff that comes up with these articles that you want to update us on, or if you'd rather chat about anything related to LLM stuff or anything more in particular, you're always free to, shoot me a message and hop on and everything. And yeah,
that'd be awesome. Yeah. If anything comes up, I'll keep posted.
Cool. All right. Well, have a good one. Thanks for the combo.
Have a good one. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Fucking nerd. Got him. See, at the end of the day, guys, what that guy was trying to say is stop using AI for anything ever. It all sucks, okay? True. U.S. hits lithium jackpot. 18 million tons worth 540 billion found underground. That's because we're God's chosen people, okay? Do you believe the stuff about Musk, Vance, Thiel being subscribers of Curtis Yarvin's theory and CEOs backing Trump to help transform government into a tech CEO-governed monarchy? Are you at all concerned about it? I only see it talked about once in a while, and no one seems to take it that seriously. I mean, I think it's bad, and it could be happening, I guess, in terms of them being obsessed with Yarvin. But I mean, I don't know. Like, let's say that you believe that versus you believe what the administration right now is doing is horrible. Like, there's nothing that would change. I mean, everything going on right now is fucking horrible. Whether you think it's because they all subscribe to some weird neo tech monarchy dude or not, like, it's bad. There's a lot of bad stuff going on right now. Definitely not good stuff. Definitely not good stuff. One might say bad stuff. Yeah. One might say very bad stuff. Did you see that Wall Street analyst estimates that car prices will rise 4,500 to 7,500 if tariffs are implemented? Behest. Messaging changes, for fuck's sake. I don't think anybody gives a fuck about tech monarch CEO. I don't even know if the average person would even know how to engage with that idea. You should be able to message on just the horrible stuff that's like happening right now. I don't think you should need anything more than the horrible shit that's like already happening. I don't even mean like the legal stuff. I just mean like anything. Are you gonna watch the ContraPoints video? Probably not. This is a fucking disaster, but I don't give a fuck. Are Democrats even talking about the deportations? I don't know. Are they right now? They're probably trying to keep up with like the Social Security shit and everything else. What is this? President Donald Trump just granted pardons to 3 co-founders of the BitMEX cryptocurrency exchange. The co-founders, Arthur Hayes, Benjamin Dello, and Samuel Reed, previously pled guilty to a range of federal criminal charges related to money laundering. Okay.
States stepped in, not to conquer, but to protect.
What the fuck is this?
Not in the cold silence of the tundra, a bond was born. Not from treaties or trade, but from blood and bravery. While Germany controlled Europe, the Nazis set their sights on the Arctic. Greenland became an unwitting combatant, and the United States stepped in, not to conquer, but to protect. In 1943, nearly 1,000 American soldiers, with 4 chaplains, set sail from New York to Greenland, carrying with them hope, duty, and a quiet fear. But their ship was torpedoed by a Nazi U-boat, and the frigid waters of the North Atlantic became a grave. Those 4 chaplains gave up their life vests, giving their lives so that others might live, to protect America and Greenland. Their sacrifices helped win our freedom, and we will never forget. Together, Americans and Greenlanders stood as sentinels at the top of the world. But today, Greenland faces new threats. From Russian aggression and Chinese expansion, our shared legacy lives on in every joint mission, every Arctic patrol, every partnership forged in the shadow of melting ice and rising tensions. This is not just history, it is destiny. Now is the time to stand together again. For peace, for security, for the future, America stands with Greenland.
It was that. Jesus fucking Christ, bro. Kill me. Please fucking kill me. Don't worry. He's either trolling, and if he's not trolling, it's just a negotiating position. And if it's not a negotiating position, then it's a... I don't even know.
It's the people pushing the propaganda that
ATL Fed corrects GDP contraction from negative 1.8 to negative 2.8 for the first quarter of 2025. Quarters is every 3 months is a quarter, right? So we're almost at the end of this one. When do we know? When is the GDP number like settled or finalized or whatever? Like when is the final revision to it to where we typically know? Saw some dipshit in an r/ContraPoints thread about her identifying as a liberal in the last video, saying, look at how far gone she is. She has people like Destiny watching this on stream agreeing with her. Based. How do you feel about people who hold your same positions politically but work for a company like Tesla? I don't know. I don't typically judge people where they work, I guess.
I had my last review on the 31st of January, and I had the highest rating that you can get on a review, less than 21 days before I was terminated for my performance.
You voted for Donald Trump.
I did.
Do you regret that vote?
No.
Yes, I do.
Oh.
To cut the knees out of the working class Americans just doesn't make sense to me. I expected more from President Donald Trump.
Since speaking out, Piggott says she's received death threats and her home has been egged.
Good one.
This woman asked us not to show her face for fear of retribution. She recently retired from the Bureau of Fiscal Service because she was afraid of losing her health insurance if she was fired. She also voted for Trump.
Would you still have supported him?
I'm not sure that I would have. The way that it's been done, I'm for balancing the budget, that type of thing, but not in this context. It's just not right.
Like, what did you think it was going to look like?
are necessary for any company to function. So, like, if the federal government, if a commercial company operated the way the federal government does, then it would be immediately go bankrupt. It would be delisted. The officers would be arrested. The changes.
What is this cursed fucking group of people? What is this What is this? Wait, does anyone have a link to this full video? Oh God. Also, the federal government is not the same thing as a corporation. I just hate how people think it's like such a profound thing to say, and they still do this. It's like, you're having the government, it's like your pocketbook. If you were to go to the store and your pocketbook was like the government's pocketbook, it would not, you wouldn't be it's not like that. It's like, oh my God, please, stop. Hi, baby.
Thanks for having us and doing this. I know there's a lot of interest in this.
Okay, names and faces. Which host is this again?
Us and
Brett Bayer. Okay.
doing this. I know there's.
Are these all DOGE guys, or which one's Big Balls? This is obviously Elon. This isn't Stephen Miller, right? This is another bald dude.
There's a lot of interest in this. You know, first let me start with you, Elon. What are the budgetary savings goals, and how much do you think you've achieved so far?
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. From a nominal deficit of $2 trillion to try to cut the deficit in half to $1 trillion, or looked at it in total federal spending to drop the federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion. We want to reduce the spending by eliminating waste and fraud, reduce the spending by 15%, which seems really quite achievable. The government is not efficient, and there's a lot of waste and fraud. So we feel confident that a 15% reduction can be done without affecting any of the critical government services.
I'm going to talk to all the guys.
If not making it better.
I'm going to talk to all the guys here about the specifics, but for you, what's the most astonishing thing you've found out in this process?
The sheer amount of waste and fraud in the government. It is astonishing. It's mind-blowing. We routinely encounter
no
wastes
evidence
of...
Just to be clear, no evidence of a single example yet. I don't know when they said they would give us the first examples, like February fucking something, like not a single example of any waste, fraud, or abuse has been presented yet. I will say I am astounded by how legitimate, I guess, most of the government is in terms of how it operated, because I would have expected them to find something by now. Maybe the government is actually the most efficient thing in the fucking universe, but...
For $1 billion or more, casually. For example, like the simple survey that was literally 10-question survey that you could do with SurveyMonkey, cost you about $10,000. The government was being charged almost $1 billion for that.
For just the survey?
$1 billion.
Like, give more examples of that, or not give more examples, but like flesh that out. What do you mean? Did the government pay one? That's not true. Also, the order of magnitude he's just not a smart guy. The order of magnitude is off there. $1 billion? You understand how much money $1 billion is? I don't even know if Elon Musk does understand how much money $1 billion is. The government paid $1 billion for one survey? I seriously doubt that. Give more examples, or I'm sorry, flesh that out example more. Like, who was the company? What was the survey for? What exactly was it? Like, why wouldn't you go into that?
For a simple online survey, do you like the national park? And then there appeared to be no feedback loop for what would be done with that survey. So the survey would just go into nothing. It was like insane.
You technically are a special government employee, and you're supposed to be 130 days. Are you going to continue past that, or do you think that's what you're going to do? Or?
Well, I think we will have accomplished most of the work required to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion within that time frame.
So in that time frame, 130
yes.
days. And the process is a report at some point, at 100 days? Or?
Not really a report. We are cutting the waste and fraud in real time. So every day that passes, our goal is to reduce the waste and fraud by $4 billion a day, every day, 7 days a week. And so far, we are succeeding.
And I'm going to talk to the specifics, but there obviously are DOGE critics who are reading all kinds of stuff. Obviously, lawmakers on the other side of the aisle are attacking you, and they characterize the approach as this.
Somebody linked. Musk. Interior spent $1 billion on a survey of whether people like national parks. Reality, the Interior Department oversees an in-house consulting group for federal agencies that has $830 million in total contracts, one of which is to design satisfaction surveys. There you go. That makes more sense.
Fire, ready, and then aim. And how do you approach that? How do you respond to that?
Well, I do agree that we actually want to be careful in the cuts. So we want to measure twice, if not thrice, and cut once. Actually, that is our approach. They may characterize it as shooting from the hip, but it is anything but that. Which is not to say that we don't make mistakes. If we were to approach this with the standard of making no mistakes at all, that would be like saying someone in baseball's got to bat 1,000. That's impossible. So when we do make mistakes, we correct them quickly, and we move on.
Some people say this shouldn't take a rocket scientist. Steve Davis, you are a rocket scientist.
Used to be.
Yeah, and now essentially you're the chief operating officer of DOGE, day-to-day operations. Fair to say?
Yeah, part of the DOGE team.
So how did you end up here? What's the biggest challenge you see?
The reason I'm here, which is probably for many, is that I think the goal is incredibly inspiring. I think most of the taxpayers in the country would agree that in order to have the country going bankrupt would be a very bad thing, and therefore the country going not bankrupt is a good thing. That all of us are willing to kind of put our lives on hold in order to do. I think the thing that's special right now is we actually believe there's a chance to succeed. That there's an administration that's supportive and a great cabinet and just a great group that will actually make success a possible outcome. And I think that's, given the inspiring mission and given the non-zero chance of success, it was worth doing.
I'd just like to sort of re-emphasize that point. The success of DOGE is only possible with President Trump and with the outstanding cabinet that he selected. It would be impossible without the support of the president and the cabinet.
I feel
But
like
you're finding the money.
I feel like him saying this stuff, I feel like he got a talking to or something. Like, you need to be making sure that Trump is the guy getting the credit for this. You need to be aware of this. That Trump is the guy that has to get the credit for stuff like this. And that's why he like interrupts him. He's like, listen, listen, listen.
I mean, it's big numbers, right?
Yeah, like Elon said, the minimum impulse bid is often a
At Destiny, bro, never heard of the opium wars in regards to your stupid fentanyl take. I've heard the term opium wars. I actually don't know anything about how it happened historically. I don't know what that has to do with my fentanyl take or what part of it you thought was dumb, but thank you. Thank you for that.
$1 billion. So, for example, the $830 million, which was the online survey, that's an enormous amount of money that wouldn't have been found if the DOGE team wasn't working with it, in that case, the Department of Interior. But then taking it one step further, DOGE then publishes these things on our website for maximum transparency. So now the general public, it would have been impossible.
Just based on what I've seen on the DOGE website, there's less they talk about maximum transparency. There's less transparency on the DOGE website than there was on the other websites. Fuck, I forget what it was, but whatever like website would just ordinarily show the government expenditures, the DOGE website doesn't even have as much as the already existing, like, I don't know if it's a State Department or Treasury website, because that showed you way more information about the contracts and who the company was and what it was. Oh, maybe USAspending.gov? Yeah, so whatever for this.
Possible for the general public to have seen that. Now anyone can just log into doge.gov anytime and see these payments. As they're not yet in real time, they're close, but they'll probably be in real time within the next few weeks.
But the process, it still involves Congress, right? At some level?
No.
We try to keep Congress as informed as possible, but
we try to keep them as informed as possible, bro.
The law does say that money needs to be spent correctly. It should not be spent fraudulently or wastefully. It's not contrary to Congress to avoid waste and fraud. It is consistent with the law and consistent with Congress. And we've seen actually great support, at least from the Republican side of the House, and occasionally some Democrats too. It's nice
just to be
see
clear,
people cross the aisle once in a while.
Also, this is one of those points that the public might not believe, but I would fight on this, and I would, and I think everybody should, okay? I think everybody should. There is more evidence that Trump is senile and is not cognitively, doesn't have the cognitive sufficiency to actually run the office of the presidency compared to Biden. There was no evidence of Biden lacking the capability of doing this, other than he'd had a bad debate performance. There was no evidence of this ever. There have been multiple times where Donald Trump has been asked about a thing he signed, a leader he spoke, and he either can't recall it or he's explicitly said that, I don't know, somebody else said it for him. I just said all that based on the tweet headline that I read here, but let's listen to how he answers this question. Oh, and the signal leaks, where it came out that you literally have Vance saying, like, well, I don't know if the president's aware of this, so somebody else is running this for you, but...
What was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by many people that was taken advantage of. He did a business deal like in Utah, as I have it, and I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York, where he had a rough road. I mean, he was exonerated. It was a big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but I was. They say it was very unfair, and they say the thing that he did wrong was he was one of the first people that supported a gentleman named Donald Trump for president. He supported Trump. He liked Trump. I didn't know him, but he liked him.
This this guy's lawyer is apparently Pam Bondi's brother, and he donated $1.8 million to Donald Trump's re-election campaign. Like, does Trump even know anything about this guy? Who told you to pardon him, right? It doesn't even sound like he's making the decisions.
It was in Utah, and they went after him. They went after his family. They went after his businesses. And he was, I believe, exonerated. And then they went after him again, and they brought him this time into Manhattan. And he had nothing to do with Manhattan. And they got him. And I said, that's unfair. There are many people like that. They support Trump, and they went after him. You don't realize this is a vicious group of people that were in this office before us.
Remember, especially with Trump, every accusation is a confession. And this is just the reason I will never, ever, ever be able to take a single conservative seriously ever again when it comes to really anything. The idea that Trump is out here like pardoning loyalists and directing the federal government to attack people who were just doing their jobs. How many individuals have been named by executive order? How many individual law firms have been named by executive order because they worked with Mueller? That was a special investigation appointment by the Department of Justice. Like, that's just, it's insane. And conservatives are silent, or they champion it. They cheer it on.
This is a vicious group. They're violent. What they were doing to people, and you could go story after hundreds and even thousands of stories, and they went after this man. And when I heard about it, I said, nope, not going to happen. They destroyed 5 years of his life. He fought for 5 years of his life, and he did nothing wrong. And he's a good person. And basically, I had these fantastic recommendations about him from people that you know very well, all top-of-the-line people. They thought it was a horrible thing. There are many such cases, by the way, many such cases.
Why is the media silent on this? I mean, why? I don't think the media is silent. It's just how much stuff can you keep up with? It's just so much. It's just so much.
Usually when they attack DOGE, they never attack any of the specifics. So
there's nothing specific to attack because you haven't even presented any specifics. But I mean, like, how specific do you want to get? You can attack its lack of foundation in law. I think people have done that. You can attack the specific actions that you guys took when you shuttered USAID, when people were getting fired for not letting you guys in buildings. Like, what do you mean don't attack any of the specifics? What are you talking about there?
They'll say what we're doing is somehow unconstitutional or illegal or whatever. We're like, well, which line of the cost savings do you disagree with? And they can't point to any. And we list them all on doge.gov and the Doge handle on X. And you'll see just outrageous things, one outrageous thing after another.
Joe Gabbia, besides Elon, you're one of several billionaires here, co-founder of Airbnb, and you wanted to help out.
I bumped into Anthony and Elon probably back in February, and they told me something about a mine that was dealt with retirement.
Oh my God.
And they said they needed somebody to help out to fix retirement in the government. I loved the challenge, so I jumped on board. And it turns out there is actually a mine in Pennsylvania that houses every paper document for the retirement process in the government. Now picture this. This giant cave has 22,000 filing cabinets, stacked 10 high to house 400 million pieces of paper. It's a process that started in the 1950s and largely hasn't changed in the last 70 years. And so as we dug into it, we found retirement cases that had so much paper, they had to fit it on a shipping pallet. So the process takes many months, and we're going to make it just many days.
Will it be digitized, or how?
Absolutely. So this will be an online digital process that will take just a few days at most. And I really think, it's an injustice to civil servants who are subjected to these processes that are older than the age of half the people watching your show tonight. So we really believe that the government can have an Apple Store-like experience, beautifully designed, great user experience, modern systems.
Because right now it's by hand.
Yes, the retirement process is all by paper, literally with people carrying paper in manila envelopes into this gigantic mine.
So they can't retire more than a certain number every month?
Yes.
About 8,000 a month.
That's how the reason we discovered it was we were saying, like, well, let's encourage voluntary retirement. They said, well, the most they could do is 8,000 a month. And even under normal circumstances, it can take 6 to 9 months just to have your retirement paperwork processed, and they often get the calculations wrong. So we're like, well, why would it take so long to retire? And they're like, well, because of the mine. And we're like, what do you mean a mine? What's a mine got to do with retiring? And that's where we discovered that all the retirement stuff is still done by paper in a process that looks identical to what occurred in the 1950s. Like if we took a snapshot of the mine when it first started in the 50s to today, it looks the same.
It's amazing. So how long do you think it'll take to turn over?
We're working as fast as we can. Probably next couple of months we'll have this overhauled. And I really think, again, like, why are we subjecting our federal workers to processes that they actually have to go through a training just to retire from the government? There's a whole training program that people have to go through in order to retire. I think we can do better for them.
Aram Moganasi, DOGE engineer. You go into these places, one of the more than a dozen engineers, first people to go into the agencies and view the computer data sets. Tell me what you're finding, and for people who don't understand how that process works, explain it for them.
Yeah, I'll say the first thing that got me really excited about DOGE was learning basically the state of government computers. By some estimates, government IT costs about $100 billion, and it's funding systems that are over 50 years old. In the case of something like Social Security.
Is this legit? The mine thing for the paperwork stuff? Yeah, it's something they've been working on, but I mean, there are parts of the government that are old or not necessarily the most efficient. That they've been working on, some they need to work on. Sometimes it takes more funding to do it. Other times it's just like it's a process of how long it takes to figure it out. But like, you don't need DOGE for any of this shit. You never need a DOGE for any of this shit.
Or the IRS. So really critical systems are old. They cost a lot of money to maintain, and they can be the efforts to improve them are often very delayed. So I thought I'm a software engineer that maybe can make a difference here, and that's really what inspired me at a high level.
There's a lot of mystery about Social Security and a lot of words about it here's what Democrats have been saying about it.
It's absurd that Elon Musk is trying to eliminate billions of dollars from Social Security.
Elon Musk and President Trump have set their sights on cutting Social Security.
Their goal is clear. Destroy Social Security from within.
Like, I just don't like these talking points. And maybe I'm wrong. I guess I could be wrong. It's probably good if I'm wrong, because it'd be good for us politically. But again, I don't think they're going to touch. I don't think they're seriously going to start making cuts into Social Security. It would just be political suicide. I seriously doubt it. And I feel like they've been talking about the Republicans going after Social Security for so long, and it hasn't really happened in any like measurable, noticeable way. So
you're in the building. I mean, you're in the computers. What's happening there? What are you doing?
Yeah, it doesn't line up with my experience on the ground. And I'll say the two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protect them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters. 40%? That's right. Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in, they say, they claim to be a retiree, then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster. This is happening all day, every day. And then somebody doesn't receive their Social Security, it's because...
It may not be direct cuts, but the indirect effects, such as closing so many federal buildings, including the ones for SSA plus cutting support lines, makes it much more difficult for people to get help. I think that's good to focus on. I could be wrong. I don't think I'm making this up. But like, if you've ever had to call the IRS, it's a horrible experience. Usually because the wait times and everything are horrible. I don't know if this was like right after Biden or Congress had like authorized, what was it, like 80,000 new IRS agents or something. But supposedly for the first time ever, the wait times for IRS stuff was like less than a minute. Like you could call in and you would get like an instant, basically, response from somebody. Like focusing on stuff like that, I think is good.
Of all the fraud loopholes in the Social Security system.
How do you reassure people that what you all are doing is not going to affect their benefits?
No, in fact, what we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of DOGE, will receive more Social Security, not less. I want to emphasize that. As a result of the work of DOGE, legitimate recipients of Social Security will receive more money not less money.
Like this statement that he's making here, it should just be automatically disqualifying. But I mean, like, anybody that knows already knows he's an idiot, right? Like, that's not how Social Security works. What is he talking about? Like, there's like if some people scam it, then your benefits change, or like it's fucking, whatever.
Money.
All right.
I want to emphasize that point and let the record show that I said this, and it will be proven out to be true. Let's check back on this in the future.
So Washington Post, the Social Security Administration website crashed 4 times in 10 days this month because the servers were overloaded, blocking millions of retirees and disabled veterans from logging into their online accounts. Freaked people out. Is that going to change?
Yes, we're going to make sure that the website stays online.
Yeah, I mean, but is it a result of going in there or something you're doing?
No. The amount of issues that were with the Social Security system are enormous. As an example, there are over 15 million people that are over the age of 120 that are marked as alive in the Social Security system.
And that's an accurate figure.
Yeah,
correct.
Correct.
No,
this has
that's
been
a lie.
something that's been identified as a problem. Again, pre-existing problems since 2008, at least, from an IG report. So there were some great people working at the Social Security Administration that found this, 2008, and nothing was done. And so 15 to 20 million Social Security numbers that were clearly fraudulent were floating around. That can be used only for bad intentions. There'd be no way to use those for good intentions. And so one of the things the DOGE team is doing is carefully and very methodically looking at those and making sure that any fraudulent ones are eliminated.
Brad Smith, working at HHS, and obviously another element is Medicare and Medicaid, NIH. What are you finding?
Yeah. Well, I'd say there's a couple of things we're really committed to in our work at HHS. Number one, making sure we continue to have the best biomedical research in the world. And number two, making sure, which President Trump has said over and over again, that we 100% protect Medicare and Medicaid. But there's a lot of opportunity. So if I take NIH as an example, today, if you're an NIH researcher and you get a $100 grant at your university, today you get to spend 60 of that and your university spends 40 of that.
You explain why it's a lie? I feel like we've been over this a million times. There's the Social Security Administration maintains an external service called the DMF, which stands for the Death Master File. Because of a variety of ways that the SSA transmits data to this DMF. And so the Death Master File is something that the Social Security Administration makes available to other federal entities and for other private companies for them to pull information from for a variety of reasons, for credit checks or whatever the fuck else. I don't know, companies that buy access to this. That DMF, though, that Death Master File, if the Social Security Administration doesn't have like a cause of death, for instance, for a person, then that Death Master File won't be updated with like an expiration date, a death date on a person, or it won't be updated with some particular thing about the person being dead. That DMF, though, is not what the SSA uses to pay out benefits. Their own internal systems that they use to track people who are alive or dead to pay out benefits is not the same as that DMF. Every time they talk about there's 1,000 Social Securities with people that are older than blah, 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 and the SSA says they're only talking about what's publicly available on that DMF. If you actually read any of the OIG reports about it, then you'll see all of this is like very clearly laid out. This heuristically should be obvious because if you take the math that these guys are talking about, then they're talking about like hundreds of billions of dollars of fraudulent Social Security payments going out every single year that just nobody's bothered to notice or track before, which is obviously ridiculous.
Policy that we're proposing to make is that you get to spend 85 of that and your university spends 15. So that's more money going directly to the scientists who are discovering new cures. Another example at NIH is today they have 27 different centers. They got created over time by Congress, and they're typically by disease state or body system. There's 700 different IT systems today at NIH.
700 different IT systems.
IT software systems. They can't speak to each other.
And so they don't talk to one another.
They have 27 different CIOs. And so when you think about making great medical discoveries, you have to connect the data.
Time out. You said
this just fucking kill me.
27 different chief information officers?
Correct.
And most of them are non-technical.
So there's a lot there.
There's a lot of opportunity. It will make science better, not worse.
And when I say that our job is tech support, I really mean it.
Yeah.
We have to fix the computers. If the computers can't talk to each other, you can't get research done. If the computers can't stay online, people won't receive their Social Security. So what we have here are a bunch of failing computer systems that are preventing people from receiving their benefits, that are preventing people from preventing research from happening.
That's right. Like, I wish there was just like a reality TV show of a bunch of like liberal arts people or just like retards who go into some tech company, and it's just like making it better. You know, like what you guys do. What are these microservices? Why do you have any services? Why not just do everything on like one giant service? You should just have like a monolith service for every single thing you need. Imagine how much more you have 15 different services that you're calling to whenever you're trying to load a what if you just had one big one that had all the info? Like, we're going to redesign the entire company's fucking infrastructure so that everything is just one giant thing. And that would make it so much more efficient, right? If it's just one giant thing instead of a bunch of small things, right? Wouldn't that be way better?
That are extremely vulnerable to fraud, and we're fixing it.
And does that include AI? Does that include...
If you deconstruct something, is it ever taken to a passive provider chest, or is it only taken to a storage chest or a buffer chest? Stuff is taken from storage chests, I believe they are.
Kind of changing the system overall. That's, I guess, what people are afraid of, is they don't know what this is all looking like, and is it going to affect me in the long term?
It's going to affect them. It's going to affect people very positively. So the changes that we're doing here will ensure the solvency of the American government, of the United States of America. This is what we're trying to do, is ensure that people do receive their benefits in the future.
What a microservice is? When somebody pays you to be a prostitute and they look at your dick. That's a microservice, bitch.
Sure. And you can only receive your benefits if the country is operating in a healthy and competent way.
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know. Microservice is a thing that calculates or figures out some piece of information that makes that information available to somebody else, basically, is my guess. So if I have like if I create some little thing that allows you to check online at birthdays.com to get somebody's birthday, if I load a profile in DGG, instead of having code on my website that does it, I do like an API call to like the birthday service, the happy birthday service, and then happy birthday service updates some file. I don't know, is that a microservice, something like that? I don't fucking know. I don't know.
Up next, how the DOGE team plans to streamline some federal jobs and agencies. And later, Elon Musk answers some of your questions that you asked via X. Anthony Armstrong, DOGE, Office of Personnel Management, Morgan Stanley banker, M&A guy.
Yeah.
You know, money, and this is a lot of money sloshing around.
There's a lot of money sloshing around. There's a lot of money sloshing out the door. And if you look at the federal government and the way the workforce works, it's really a one-way ratchet over decades. So
it's only going up.
It's only going up. You never take it away. So that leaves you with duplicative functions, it leaves you with overstaffing, and it leaves you with functions in the wrong places. So a couple of examples. Duplicative functions. Brad mentioned 27 CIOs. If you kept going with Brad, he would talk about the communications office. I think you've got 40 distinct communications offices in HHS, right? Yeah.
40?
Yeah, and that's not unusual, by the way. Multiple offices like that.
It's also not making anyone healthy.
This is not about the employees there. There's many hardworking, well-meaning people who took these jobs. These jobs were out there. They applied for them. They took them. They're doing what's there. It's just that they're duplicating the effort of 40 offices. So you've got that. You've got overstaffing. A good example of overstaffing would be the IRS has got 1,400 people who are dedicated to provisioning laptops and cell phones. So if you join the IRS, you get a laptop and a cell phone, you're provisioned. So if each of those IRS officers or employees provisioned 2 employees per day, you could provision the entire IRS in a little more than a month. So 12 times a year,
it doesn't make any sense. Why would you have 1,400 people whose only job it is to give out?
And cell phones. So if you join the IRS, you get a laptop and a cell phone, you're provisioned. So if each of those IRS officers or employees provisioned 2 employees per day, you could provision the entire IRS in a little more than a month. So 12 times a year, you can
re-provision. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you have 1,400 people whose only job it is to give out a laptop and a phone?
Right. The whole IRS could be handled once a month. So that doesn't make any sense. And President Trump's been very clear. It's scalpel, not hatchet, and that's the way it's getting done. And then once those decisions are made, there's a very heavy focus on being generous, being caring, being compassionate, and treating everyone with dignity and respect. And if you look at how people have started to live...
There's got to be like a nickname for... So I feel like you can make arguments for a technocracy, but there's got to be a nickname for like a retarded technocracy. Like in a technocracy, you would have like doctors and researchers running the NIH. You'd have like special like accountants or CPAs or actuaries or whatever running the IRA. Like you'd have like these specialized technocrats running everything. But what do you call it when it's just like technocrats from one realm decide to run everything? Like we have a technocracy. Oh, really? You have highly educated and specialized people for every single part of government? Oh, no. We have highly educated people from one sector of the economy running all parts of government. Oh, well, that doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of having a technocracy? That just sounds really fucking retarded. Tardnocracy? True. Tardnocracy. Okay.
The government, it is largely through voluntary means. There's voluntary early retirement, there's voluntary separation payments. We put in place deferred resignation, the 8-month severance program. So there's a very heavy bias towards programs that are long dated, that are generous, that allow people to exit and go and get a new job in the private sector. And you've heard a lot of news about rifts, about people getting fired. At this moment in time, less than 0.15, not 1.5, less than 0.15 of the federal workforce has actually been given a RIF notice. So
they're selected if they're leaving.
It is
basically almost no one's gotten fired. That's what we're saying.
Tom Krause, working at Treasury, you are.
Most of these guys seem to be qualified for where their job is. No, they don't sound like it. They all just sound like software dev retards, and people that do software development, for some reason, I think they can literally do every single fucking job ever. I don't know why.
Having access to the payment system, oversees all the outgoing payments. Essentially, those payments were going places we didn't know where they were going, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case, Brett. As an ex-CFO of a big public tech company.
Oh boy, more tech company.
Really what we're doing is we're applying public company standards to the federal government.
Oh, so you're fucking retarded. Thank you. Okay, cool.
And it is alarming how the financial operations and financial management is set up today. There is actually really only one bank account that's used to disperse all monies that go out of the federal government.
Time out. One bank account.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big
like, it's also like an all roads lead to Rome fallacy, or kind of not fallacy. I don't know how to say this, but like earlier, the fact that there were 27 different chief operating systems or whatever the fuck, that was horrible. But now when there's one giant bank account, now that's horrible, right? If this guy would have given a different explanation, if he would have said, you won't believe this, but there's 50 different bank accounts that the government uses to people, they'd be like, 50? That could just be one giant bank account. Oh, but now it's like one bank account. It's, oh my God, one bank account. That should be 50. Like, it's just all arbitrary and fucking stupid.
It's a big one. A couple weeks ago, it had $800 billion in it, but it's the Treasury General account. So when you hear, some of my colleagues here, what they're talking about in terms of the fraud, you have to ask, well, why is this allowed to happen at a financial
fraud?
level?
We still haven't described any fraud at all.
Simple but alarming. The Treasury, up until now, and thanks to President Trump, we're fixing this. In fact, there was an executive order that he just signed the other day, which is protecting America's bank account, because it really is the taxpayers' money. One, we're changing the culture. The culture is been not a lot of caring and not a lot of commitment to doing what's right relative to financial operations. There's a $500 billion of fraud every year. There's hundreds of billion dollars of improper payments, and we can't pass an audit. The consolidated financial report is produced by Treasury, and we cannot pass it on. We have material weaknesses. What that means is that if I was a public company CFO, I would effectively be removed. I couldn't file financial statements. I couldn't issue securities, which of course we depend on. Can't pass an audit.
Right. The federal government cannot pass an audit. It's impossible. In fact, in order to pass an audit, you need the information necessary to pass an audit. You need to have the payment codes. You need to have the payment explanation.
Who gave this talking point of like the payment codes? He's like obsessed with this fucking term that this fucking retard got fed by somebody who uses all the time. He's so fucking stupid. Kill me, dude. He's got to be the worst person in the world to work for. I can't imagine. Or unless just the ketamine is just like fried his brain or something. It's so different. Jesus.
And you need to have a person you can contact to understand why that payment was made. None of those things were mandatory. Until just recently, just a few weeks ago. In fact, maybe last week?
Yeah, we're serving 580 plus agencies. And up until very recently, effectively they could say make the payment, and Treasury just sent it out as fast as possible. No verification.
Really? No verification on any payment set out by the federal government ever. None. They just get sent out, and no one knows anything. Then find some example. There should be thousands or millions of examples of actual fraudulent payments then, if that's the case, right? There should be so many examples of this.
What we're doing is what any household would do. But imagine you're a household, you have a bank account, everyone has an ATM card connected to that account, everyone has a checkbook connected to that account. It's not just your children, it's not just your parents, it's your in-laws, it's your extended family, and they all can go to the account and disperse funds. No questions asked, no justification, no verification.
Up next, the DOGE team targets government contracts, and we'll show you what they're finding. Tyler Hassan, Interior Department, you're a former oil company CEO. You're reviewing contracts before they're approved for funding. What are you finding?
Well, Elon and Steve kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I actually found that customer service survey contract. I actually have an example of one right here.
Oh,
I could
an
have
example.
done this in high school.
Oh my God.
And
is that right?
I found it. Is that bad? I found it on the weekends because under the Biden administration,
I could have done this in high school. That's always, by the way, that's always code talk for somebody who has no idea about the scope of like a particular thing that they're working for. Anytime somebody's like, oh, that seems so easy. This massive organization that has thousands or tens of thousands of people working for it that have this problem, and for some reason, oh my God, I could solve this so easy. That's always code talk for some guy who is dramatically underestimating the complexity or depth of a particular project every single time. Every single time.
There was no departmental oversight within the Department of Interior whatsoever. None. We are now reviewing every single contract, every single grant, and when things come to my attention that don't make sense, I'm bringing them to Secretary Burgum, and he's been fantastic. He's a businessman. He's very supportive of DOGE. It's been wonderful to work with him.
Is the battle between government of decades of buildup and business, which you guys are, is that like a train hitting each other? I mean, it seems like it's pretty disruptive.
Well, this is a revolution, and I think it might be the biggest revolution in government since the original revolution. But at the end of the day, America is going to be in much better shape. America will be solvent. The critical programs that people depend upon will work, and it's going to be a fantastic future. But are we going to get a lot of complaints along the way? Absolutely. You know, one of the things I learned at PayPal was you know who complains the loudest and with the most amount of fake righteous indignation? The fraudsters.
I don't even know I don't think he even worked at PayPal. I don't even know when he worked at PayPal if it would have been when people could be fraudsters. The PayPal that he worked at and left, I think was before, something can remember, but I think it was before PayPal even became like a customer, like consumer facing thing. It was originally like the internal payment processor thing of they were trying to get rolling. But Elon Musk was not a part of what is now today known as like PayPal, like the huge thing that is like a payment thing for between, you know, random people or whatever it is. Him trying to act like he was a part of this when it was like in its like huge customer growth phase is just not true.
It's a tell. There's some of these NGOs that are crazy, like the $2 billion to Stacey Abrams NGO that basically didn't exist, and suddenly gets $2 billion awarded from the federal government.
Stacey Abrams, yes.
Why? And there are many such cases like that.
I think that most people, common sense-wise, would say the fraud's got to end.
Yeah.
They're concerned about the 94-year-old mother who skips a check or somehow doesn't get what she's supposed to get.
Right. And what we're trying to say is actually that the 94-year-old grandmother is actually, as a result of DOGE's work, going to get her check.
She's going to get even more money.
She's not going to be robbed by fraudsters like she's getting robbed today. And the solvency of the federal government will ensure that she continues to receive those Social Security checks, that Medicare continues to work, without which we're all doomed. Okay. The reason we're doing this is because if we don't do it, America's going to go insolvent. We're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to get anything.
Okay. Why are you guys all doing it? I mean, you can pipe up, but you don't have to be here, right?
You're so selfless.
You don't have to be
heroes.
I have blessed with 4 beautiful children, my wife and I. But we have a real fiscal crisis.
What's it like being heroes?
And this is not sustainable. And
what's it like being a real American hero?
Back to my children and everyone else's children is we are burdening them with that debt. and it's only going to grow.
Steve, there's not a lot of hierarchy here. You guys are kind of all approaching it in different, silos, but with the same kind of goal, right? I mean, this is really Silicon Valley, private sector colliding with government.
Yeah, exactly. And we're headed in a bad path, but the chance of success exists. And just the one that just is in my head right now, which is a fairly mundane one, but I think is very illustrative, is credit cards. There are in the federal government around 4.6 million credit cards for around 2.3 to 2.4 million employees. This doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so one of the things all of the teams have worked on is we've worked with the agencies and said, do you need all of these credit cards? Are they being used? Can you tell us physically where they are?
I hope they're getting frequent flyers.
Actually, on a different note, the rewards program the federal government has is actually not very good. That's a whole other...
It's a negotiation.
Sure, yeah, exactly. But so far, the teams have worked together, and they've reduced it from 4.6 million to 4.3 million.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
We're taking it easy.
Yeah.
But clearly there should not be, more. There should not be more credit cards than there are people. Yeah.
Joe, middle-level employees, are they seeing a benefit to being empowered by taking out bureaucracy? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I think what you're seeing is taking the best of Silicon Valley and the business world and bringing it into the government. We're bringing the best practices and the best methodologies, and people are inspired. Right, especially on the retirement process, which I can speak to. They've been trying to modernize and get off of paper since early 2000s, very unsuccessfully. Every attempt has gone over budget and been canceled because it hasn't been successful. And so, I showed up and I feel like I'm here because it's an interesting problem. We can use design to solve it and good engineering, and really create a better experience for everybody.
We're talking about elementary financial controls that are necessary for any company to function. So, like, if the federal government, if a commercial company operated the way the federal government does, then it would be immediately go bankrupt. It would be delisted. The officers would be arrested. The changes we're putting in place will enable the federal government to pass an audit. It will enable taxpayers to know where the money is going and know that their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent well. The ways that the government is defrauded is that the computer systems don't talk to each other. So if the computer systems don't talk to each other, then you can exploit that gap, and fraudsters exploit that gap to take advantage. For example, there were over $300 million of Small Business Administration loans that has been given out to people under the age of 11.
Well, actually, to add to it, it's 300 million under the age of 11 and over 300 million to over the age of 120.
Definitely
small business loan.
300 million to
the age of 11.
Well, actually, to add to it, it's 300 million under the age of 11 and over 300 million to over the age of 120.
Like which loans? When? Like name some of these. What are you talking about? Like give examples. Give examples.
Definitely
small business loans.
Correct.
Yes. The oldest American is 114.
Okay.
So it's safe to say if their age is 115 or above, they're fake.
Wow.
Or they should be in the gangs.
That's amazing deduction. Holy shit. Is this Sherlock fucking Holmes? Oh my God.
Guinness Book of World Records. And we should not be giving out loans to babies. So the youngest recipient of a Small Business Administration loan is a 9-month-old, which is a very, very precocious baby we're talking about here. So obviously it was just fraudulent. And they do terrible things. They actually will see that a kid's been born. They will steal that kid's social security number and then take out a loan and leave that kid with a bad credit rating.
Like who? Where? Can somebody tell me where I can go and get a loan with an SSN from a 1-year-old? Like, are you getting loans for people that aren't doing credit checks at all? Hello? Like, what are we talking about? Can you show me where I can get some of these loans at? The fuck?
There was literally a baby.
A baby.
Terrible things are being done, is what we're saying.
And how
we're stopping these terrible things.
And you can stop it? I mean,
well,
we are stopping it.
The reason this is
Absolutely.
happening is because the two systems are not talking to each other.
Yes.
Right. And so
the systems.
you don't know at the Small Business Administration that you're giving a loan to a 9-month-old, which happened in one case, because you're not cross-referencing that with the Social Security Administration data that has birth dates. So that very, very simple fix eliminates tremendous fraud. And that there are multiple systems across the government where the systems are not speaking with one another. And if you just solve that simple problem, you would solve a huge amount of fraud.
Are you
so one of the ways that, like one of the key tricks that the fraudsters pull is that they will use the fact that someone is marked as live, and as sort of just that Social Security number is marked as live in Social Security, and then get disability and unemployment insurance for a dead person. Because the databases don't talk to each other, all they got was from Social Security is like, is this person alive? Yes, they're not alive. It's falsely marked. Person is falsely marked as alive in Social Security, but they didn't. But that person, a fraudster can now get unemployment and disability from a dead person. This is happening all the time at
Isn't
scale.
unemployment insurance
Are you surprised?
Usually based on your wages and stuff? Also, I thought UI was paid out on a by states and not by the federal government, but I could be wrong about that. But I'm pretty sure unemployment is based on like prior wages and shit. So I don't know how you would just use an SSN. I'm sure there are elaborate ways to do fraud like this, but I don't know if it's that simple. But
at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in, there's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary.
There is no federal
holds. They're being
unemployment plan?
challenged by the DOGE.
yeah, because whenever I hire like W-2 employees, I have to fill out a bunch of fucking. It's always state paperwork for unemployment insurance and shit.
Right. Are you surprised by that pushback?
I feel like.
Well, it's the DC Circuit is notorious for having a very far left bias, and when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Oh, they're working at these NGOs. Oh, they're getting them. They're the ones getting this money.
NGOs.
Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? Sounds like corruption to me.
Last thing, do you guys all see this as a patriotic duty? I mean, is that really what this is about?
It's essential.
Is that why you're heroes?
Right. I do, 100%. I was running 5 businesses in Houston, and I left that. I left great people to do this.
5 businesses.
My wonderful wife said, go for it. And here I am. But I feel like this is me giving back to the country.
If we don't do this, we're sunk. The ship, unless this exercise is successful, the ship of America will sink. That's why we're doing it.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate the time today, and hopefully it took some of the myth and mystery out of DOGE and what's happening behind the scenes.
Thank you.
We asked on Axe, your platform, for some,
everything's
some
called
questions. And here is C. Sperling. He writes, are they happy with the speed at which they're making changes? Are there any changes they would like to make but haven't yet?
Well, I think in the context of the government, we're moving like lightning. In the context of what I'm used to moving,
Did you learn a single thing from this? No, there is no more media, and especially for this administration, like it's just all sloganeering and all propaganda. It's just, I mean, those are the same thing. It's just slogans and propaganda. That's it. We don't get like any actual information about anything. It's just here's the slogans, here are the talking points. Like there you go, boom, 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 boom. Like the same shit over and over again.
I'd like. What seems like incredibly fast action by government standards is it's slower than I'd like, to be totally frank. But
oh yeah, like that full self-driving shit.
Progress.
It's coming, guys, next year.
A very sort of thorny problem, a tough problem. Really, it's kind of like painful homework, frankly, is reconciling all of the government databases to eliminate the waste and fraud. These databases don't talk to each other, and that's really the source of that's the biggest vulnerability for fraud, is the fact that these databases don't talk to each other. So we need to reconcile the databases. It's a frankly painful homework.
Like, which databases don't talk to each other? We need that one asshole from that Twitter space. Like, what databases aren't communicating with each other that should be communicating with each other? Can you give an example of this? Or what? Like, can you give an example of a fail that happens that is a common occurrence in government because some databases aren't connected that should be? Can you give an example of this? Like, what are you talking about?
But it has to be done, and will greatly improve the efficiency of the government systems.
We didn't talk about any plans to approach cuts at the Pentagon. You're in there.
The Pentagon has not passed an audit in a very long time. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, they will lose $20–30 billion a year, and they don't know where. They literally don't know where it went.
That's literally not how that works. But okay.
I mean, Senator Collins was telling me about how she gave the Navy $12 billion for extra submarines, got 0 extra submarines, and then when she held a hearing, said, "Where'd the $12 billion go?" They didn't know.
Talking to those guys, and you have a great team from all over the country. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be here. You know, there's now been these many cases of violence and vandalism at Tesla dealerships. How does that affect your employees, your customers? What does it mean to you? Like, how have you taken that in?
It hurts.
Well, I think a great wrong is being done to the people of Tesla and to our customers. I mean, Tesla is a peaceful company that has made great cars, great products. That's all it's done. Hasn't harmed anyone.
Okay, really? Okay, then how does it work, Dusty? I don't know. I'm not the one in charge of auditing all this shit. It's not my responsibility to explain it. It's his.
And yet people are committing violence. They're firebombing Tesla dealerships. They're shooting guns into stores. They're threatening people. They're issuing death threats against me and other Tesla personnel. What are they doing this for? Why? And what's happening, it seems to me, is they're being fed propaganda by the far left.
Oh.
And they believe it.
The only way anybody can not like you is because
it's really unfortunate.
Propaganda, for sure.
But the real problem is not the people. It's not like the crazy guy that firebombs a Tesla dealership. It's the people pushing the propaganda that caused that guy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the real villains here.
Villains, okay.
And we're going to go after them. And the president's made it clear we're going to go after them. The ones providing the money, the ones pushing the lies and propaganda.
Oh.
We're going after them.
Oh, so now propaganda is illegal. Oh, okay. Oh,
and it's been this evolution.
Can't you just wait? I don't understand. If we just have more speech and more freedom of speech, shouldn't you guys be able to just right all the wrong? Like, go community note them, Elon. Go community note them. Get them. Get them with your community notes.
And I mean, the last administration was going to mandate electric vehicles, and now you see on the far left some efforts to go after electric vehicles. It's quite something.
That's crazy.
It is ironic. I mean, it seems like the most ironic outcome is the most likely.
Huh. Epic.
But
simply epic.
Yeah, I mean,
personally, it's got to take a toll.
It does.
Oh, yeah, it's hard being this great of a selfless American hero and having people never thank you.
I think there's some real evil out there.
Yeah.
And we have to overcome it.
I mean, you have been called a Nazi, a white supremacist, a fascist.
How do you deal with that, man?
I mean, they've got this sort of their
just to name
playbook.
a few. Yeah.
I mean, they've still got it. They haven't. I guess they still need to call me Stalin, Mussolini, whatever, Genghis Khan or whatever.
You're not, right? Just to be clear,
they
right?
called the president all these things. I think at one point there was a magazine cover which said President Trump was worse than Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin combined.
Wow.
The president hasn't killed anyone. He hasn't started any wars. In fact, he's good at stopping wars.
Oh, yeah?
So this is obviously, they're pushing these lies. And why do they push these lies? And I think that we need to hold people responsible for pushing these lies. Because those...
By the way, if Kamala or Biden or Hillary or anybody that was a Democrat would say anything like this, holding people responsible for pushing lies, it would be a fucking field day. Actually, there already was when they would say things like even remotely hinting at, yeah, people can't just lie like this. Oh, what are they going to come and take away our freedom of speech? They would go crazy on this stupid shit. But
lies almost got the president killed.
What's something that people want to know about the president? You're pretty close to him now. You spend a lot of time with him. What's something that people want to know?
Was this for submarines? Hold on. Senator Collins announces $12 million contract officially awarded for important infrastructure project at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. He said this was billion? Maybe there was a different one that they were talking about?
The president is a good man. I think he is an honest man. And I've yet to see him do anything mean.
God, it's such a dick suck. Wait, real quick. Is there a way that I could use a blueprint, or I'm sorry, a deconstruction planner to just take out all of the modules? Like I just want to do this and take out all the modules. Can I do that if I create one of these?
Or anything that is wrong, that I would say morally wrong. Not even once.
You know, a lot is coming your way, but sometimes you say stuff or post stuff that gets attention. You give it out, in other words. Democratic Arizona Senator Mark Kelly posted on X about his trip to Ukraine to push for continuing to send U.S. weapons and support there, and you posted that he was a traitor. Well, why do that?
Well, I think somebody should care about the interests of the United States above the interests of another country. And if they don't, they're a traitor.
Yeah, but he's a decorated veteran, a former astronaut, a sitting U.S. senator.
It doesn't mean it's okay for him to put the interests of another country above America.
Obviously, there are some Republicans who think supporting Ukraine is
in our interest.
The right thing still, but there is a battle back and forth about how do you think it comes to an end?
Oh. Is that his kid?
I think there will be a negotiated peace. And the thing that we should be concerned about is we should have empathy for the thousands of people that are dying every day in trenches for no movement in the lines. So the borders remain the same. For the past 2 years, thousands of people have died.
Wow, brave.
Every week.
So brave.
For nothing.
Mm-hmm. So brave,
for what?
by the way. Brave, by the way. Very brave.
And I take great offense at those
I care about those lives.
Those who put the appearance of goodness over the reality of it. Those who virtue signal and say, oh, we can't give in to Russia, but have no solution to stopping thousands of kids dying every day.
Wow.
They just want that to continue forever.
Forever.
I have contempt for such people. I don't want to make that clear.
Oh my God.
So you're optimistic.
Because they're virtue signaling.
And I'm not. I'm being serious.
Their lack of a solution means that kids don't have a father. It means that parents lost a son.
Wow.
For what?
For what?
Nothing.
So you're optimistic that the president's
God, he's such a fucking loser. God, he's so fucking retarded too, and he's so stupid.
Plan is the only thing that will work.
How did tech people fall? It's just like the human condition is universal, okay? Hassan shows us that women can simp just as bad as men can. Tech bros show us that techie people can be retarded dipshits just as much as fucking anybody else that you might think is a retarded dipshit. Like we're all just people, I guess, at the end of the day, huh? Holy fuck.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
What's up,
click
Sean?
here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Thanks, Sean. Oh, Jesus. Christ. All right, well, I'm gonna go do fun stuff. You see JD Vance in Greenland? Nope. Didn't know. Or don't know, don't care. I'm sure he's having a blast. Anything else tonight? Yeah, it should be at 7 or 7:30. Paste. It says 9 on the YouTube channel. I don't know why I said 9. I thought I changed it to 7. Okay. Have fun. I'll see you tonight. Be careful.